be dating this person, or she shouldn't be dating that. Like, what the fuck? This is not fucking high school. This is a grown ass woman who is a billionaire and a powerful global superstar. You don't get to tell her, or any other woman for that matter, like who they should or shouldn't like date or be seeing or whatever. And so it's all come out in this weird conspiracy theory because they can't deal with what the actual reality is because it's one of the pervasive global things that ends up being in the face even of these right-wing lunatics. As much as they seal themselves within their own little hermetic media bubble, they can't escape Taylor Swift, and it disturbs them that they can't do that, and so they have to justify it and twist it around somehow through some sort of bizarre conspiracy theory because the reality is too much for them to deal with. It breaks their tiny little brains.
And it's also a tell on their Christian nationalism because religious women can't do those things.
Right.
They can't tell their husband to F off. They're not going to make him a sandwich. They're putting on their shoes and they're going out.
Right.
They live in this self-contained bubble where they control their friends and their friends control them. So when they see a woman who's out there doing her thing and being vulnerable and being wrong and being right and growing and learning from experiences and doing it out in public, they are so jealous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
It's their Christian nationalism is showing. Where, look, you choose to live under those rules and restrict yourself to this little tiny box with this one life that you've been given. But this other person's like, I don't know what's in the next life, so I'm going to live this up and attain something, and actually ended up doing it. And like you said, we have this perception that we own celebrities.
Yeah.
We don't, no more than they own us. We should be grateful that we know about their lives. We may have opinions, but literally it's none of our fucking business, and our opinions don't matter.
No,
it's their life.
Exactly. That's right. And it seems to me to kind of fall within the same structure that they were trying to like trap like poor white Southerners in. I say trap. I don't think that's quite the right word because
like what Lyndon Johnson said.
Exactly. You know exactly what I'm going for. Exactly. As long as there's someone else that's weaker and less powerful and more put upon than you feel like you're in a position of power. That's generally it. I forget what the exact words are, but you're going for exactly the same thing that I was.
That is behind it. Absolutely. Right. That mindset that, hey, I might be broke, but at least I'm not that.
Yeah.
That is disgustingly racist and abhorrent of you.
Right.
And this whole Taylor Swift discussion really is a tell on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we should, listen to what they're saying and realize they're telling on themselves. They're frightened by young people because they know they're going to change this country come hell or high water. Yeah. They can't keep them out of the ballot box for long.
Yeah.
And they will change this country. And in 30, 40, 50 years, it will not resemble anything what the boomers had squandered that the silent generation gave them. Yeah. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
But it's coming and they know it.
It is. They know it. And I think we need as much as possible to address them by saying, hey, I hear you feel weak. I hear you feel vulnerable. And here's what's going on. But first of all, you are putting people that are more vulnerable than you in danger. But second of all, like your power has been reduced. You are being put in a worse economic situation, but it doesn't have anything to do with women. It doesn't have anything to do with people of color. It has to do with the very powerful, the 1% of the 1% who are controlling the resources, and for centuries, essentially, they have like tried to distract you by creating these like subgroups that didn't even exist before to try and make you feel more powerful so that you would go after them, those weaker groups, instead of them, the people who actually had the power. And now it's coming to crunch time. And you can do one of two things. You can either like continue down this insane rabbit hole of nonsense that you're making up about the people that they want to distract you with, or you can turn around and say, hey, who really has the power here? Who really has the money here? Who has the ability to control the destiny of my life? And you can actually join us to improve all of our lives by saying that is bullshit. We're not going to be fooled anymore. We're not going to be controlled anymore. There's going to be an equal distribution or a more equitable distribution of resources throughout this country and throughout the world. And we're not going to take this anymore, and we're not going to focus our attention on the wrong people anymore. I think that could come of this if it comes down to it. That's what I'm hoping for. That could eventually come into fruition.
We may have a D. Snyder in the Oregon Supreme Court because they just told 10 GOP senators, since you guys decided to pull this little stunt and make it so we couldn't vote for 6 weeks, you can't run for re-election.
Yeah,
there you go.
I love that, and I voted for that. I think that is fantastic. It was overwhelmingly approved by the voters. And I gotta brag on Oregon because we voted it in place, and then these right wing nut jobs who represent these big patches of land with a lot of cattle and very few people in eastern Oregon, in a lot of the rural areas of this state. They decided to say, well, it didn't really mean that we couldn't run this time. It meant that we couldn't run after another cycle, but we're just going to try to do it again because, we want to waste the taxpayer money, and we feel like you don't, we don't really care what you think. And the Supreme Court of the state of Oregon slapped them down. And they were absolutely right to do so. I mean, you got to know that, among the people who are trying to run were people who literally, opened a locked door for January 6th type protesters into the state capitol in Salem, Oregon, and tried to facilitate another January 6th on a state level. And it could have happened, and they were literally caught on a security camera opening a door for these people. And thank God the security folks were able to keep them out. But it really could have happened. And there's a guy just to the east of where I live in a place called Klamath Falls. And that's the same place where they lined the streets carrying rifles when they heard that the Antifa bus was going to come into town. And he said basically that no person who is not a Christian should be a representative or an elected official. And he was slapped down hard, big time, by the one member of the Muslim community that is also a state representative. But this is the kind of mentality that these guys have, and they were walking off the job in a coordinated way, so that key things like essential
voting and passing bills.
You voting.
They
and
didn't
passing,
have a quorum, so they couldn't vote.
Exactly, and they wanted to stop stuff like caps on carbon emissions and stuff like that because they are funded by these massive fossil fuel companies to a large extent, and they did it, and the voters of the state of Oregon said that's bullshit, and now the Supreme Court of the state of Oregon has said that it's bullshit too, and yay for Oregon. I have to toot our horn a little bit.
Oh, and just as another tell of these people, in a statement, Senator Tim Knopp said, "We obviously disagree with the Supreme Court's ruling, but more importantly, we are deeply disturbed by the chilling impact this decision will have to crush dissent." Listen, motherfucker. First of all, you did this coordinated, like you mentioned, Beowulf, coordinated to disturb and obstruct people from doing their jobs. Yeah. And if you want to protest, you can, but you can't hold a legislative body hostage in order to protest. Your protest should not impede your ability to do your job or your coworkers' ability to do theirs. Right. That's not a protest. That's not dissent. That's manipulation. And that's why you can't have another go at it.
Yep. No, that's exactly right. And the one thing I'll agree with him on is, yes, he is deeply disturbed. And I think that should be noted for all of posterity. Not deeply disturbed, fortunately, are the majority of the members of the City Council of Chicago who have voted to call for a ceasefire. It was kind of a close thing. I wish it had been a more overwhelming majority. But they did pass 24 to 23, with Mayor Johnson casting the tie-breaking vote to say, yes, we want a ceasefire. And I just struggle with this, because it really shows you how deeply entrenched in an anti-human mentality a lot of people in the political and media system are, that the idea of a ceasefire, of not blowing other human beings up, should be remotely controversial.
It also should not be lost on anyone who follows this or comes in contact with this information about what's going on the Gaza Strip, and has been for quite some time, that Jews are speaking up and asking for this. The group Jewish Voice for Peace was behind this. And these protests that we see across the country, not on national news if you're lucky, but on local news, I find it, these are Jewish groups who are organizing these things. So when the Jews are telling you that you're looking a little Hitlery, then maybe you should stop.
Yeah.
And for non-Jews, when Jews look at something and say, yeah, that's Holocausty.
Yeah.
What the non-Jews should do is say, oh, wait a minute. The people who went through it and know are saying this looks like it. Maybe we should stop.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Joe Biden.
Yeah. Yeah. And all this work around the edges of him saying, oh, we're going to put sanctions on settlers in the West Bank. I'm sorry, that doesn't go far enough. People are still being killed. People are, children are still being massacred. Homes and lives and entire neighborhoods are being wiped off the face of the earth. Joe Biden clearly, or somebody in his administration, understands that a lot of people are upset about this. A lot of people are morally indignant about this, and I don't think they understand yet. I hope they will at some point, that people are not going to be put off by scraps on this. This is a real, serious moral thing, and he is going to suffer at the ballot box, because if he doesn't do a much bigger turnaround on this, because people will just say, this is, I'm not going to vote for Trump, but just screw this and just stay home. And that is a very, very dangerous thing. And Joe Biden is letting it happen. He's got to do much, much more. And the people in that administration have got to be much more active. They've got to call for a ceasefire. They've got to say to Netanyahu, enough is enough. Stop this shit and get on it. Otherwise, I hate to be pessimistic, but I really feel like if nothing serious changes, we're looking at another Trump presidency, and that is so fucking dangerous. We cannot let that happen.
No, Chicago, call your boy.
Yeah. Yeah, please. Yeah. Hello, Joe, over here. Remember we voted for you last time? We'd like to do it again. But so these people are being murdered, so we're giving it second thoughts. Let's not go down this road. There's no good reason to do this. My God, I mean, please, Joe, wake up. Nap time's over. It's time to get on this. We are calling your attention to this, and thank you, City of Chicago, for making this happen. I look forward to, Susanne. I don't know if you have any previews of what you're going to be doing, what is going to be downloaded this Sunday on This Week again, but we are definitely looking